The interaction between literature and film adaptation involves a lively exchange of creativity and interpretation. This mutual connection guarantees that engaging stories come alive in both written and cinematic forms, contributing to the diverse cultural landscape of storytelling. Today we are going to talk about movie After Hours by Martin Scorsese and its connection with Kafkaesque literary worlds. So, what is Kafkaesque literary world? In my view, it is an unchangeable and alien world governed by unique laws and logic, both familiar and distant. Its images and symbols are taken from our world of phenomena, but they also seem to belong to something else. Familiar people and situations, though recognizable, appear strangely estranged. The characters, real and physical, also possess a grotesque and abstract nature. Kafka's stories create a nuanced space where the known intertwines with the uncanny, forming a complex and enigmatic narrative landscape. World where one simple random event triggers a reality previously unknown to you. Let's at first explore some Kafka's works to begin with. Novel The Trial, written by Kafka between 1914 and 1915, tells the story about Joseph K., who wakes up one morning to find himself under arrest by an unknown authority for an unspecified crime. As he navigates a bewildering legal system, Joseph tries to uncover the charges against him, facing a series of surreal and absurd situations, a range of enigmatic characters, and struggles against an inscrutable bureaucracy. The protagonist unexpectedly encounters a side of the world he has never seen before. He tries to play by the rules of this world, but he will forever remain alienated from it, unable to understand it, and in the end, he will be killed. Movie After Hours follows the night of main character Paul Hackett, a computer data entry worker. He meets girl Mercy Franklin in a New York City cafe. Then he attempts to visit her apartment, but that results in discovering Mercy's disfigurement, so he decides to leave the apartment abruptly. The night unfolds with bizarre events. Fare at the subway has increased at the stroke of midnight. Bartender is unable to open the cash register. Mercy has committed suicide, but her friend Kiki and her boyfriend left the apartment and went to the club Berlin. Strange behavior of Julie, the waitress at the bar, in her own apartment. Mercy appears to be the girlfriend of the bartender. A group of punks attempt to shave his head into a mohawk in the club Berlin. A pursuit by a mob and mistaken identities. Seeking refuge in Club Berlin, Paul is helped by June, a sculptor, who disguises him with plaster to evade the pursuing mob. Then Paul, disguised with plaster, falls into the hands of burglars, who thought him to be the sculpture they had dropped in the street earlier. Van of burglars then take a sharp turn, and Van's back door opens right near to Paul's office building. Both fiction worlds have a lot in common. In both stories, the action takes place in a dark urban setting where streets and buildings blend into a continuous, maze-like space. In After Hours, it's a confusing setting where everything and everyone seem to be against you. A strange New York City's Soho district. In The Trial, it's the complex, labyrinth-like network of courtrooms and the legal system as a whole. Scorsese's Soho, with its misty trash cans, scary streets, the village taxi drivers, and crowded apartments, strongly resembles Kafka's The Trial, where space feels both oppressive and tricky, where, quote, dimness, dust, and reek, unquote, are everywhere, and the air is, quote, stifling and heavy. Quote, the sun burns down on the roof, and the hot wood makes the air so thick and heavy. But the air is almost impossible to breathe on days when there's a lot of business, and that's almost every day. But you get used to the air alright in the end. Where you're here for the second or third time, you'll hardly notice how oppressive the air is. unquote. Just as the court in the trial is located among a confusing series of flat staircases. Just as Titorelli's artist flat has eavesdropping girls and the secret door behind his bed leads to the court's office, so too the Soho attic of Mercy, and her roommate is depicted as a vague, cavernous, indeterminate space with no clearly definite boundaries, and here, too, inexplicable whispers are heard behind the thin walls. As Titorelli mentions, the court offices can be found in every attic in the city, affirming its comprehensive control. Even if the room is large, people feel lost in it, wandering like in a labyrinth, such as in the office of the lawyer Gould. When he had sat down, Joseph K. continued to look around the room. It was a large room with a high ceiling. The clients of this lawyer, for the poor must have felt quite lost in it. K. thought he could see the little steps with which visitors would approach the massive desk. Unquote. Joseph K. finds out that the only path to get to the court situated in the attic is by passing through Titorelli's room, even stepping over his bed. This comes as a shock for Kay, who considered it as a positive sign that Titorelli's studio was far from the court offices. In After Hours, on the other hand, mysteriously, all streets in Soho lead Hackett back to previous locations: the cafe, Marcy's apartment, and the bartender's building. Club Berlin undergoes a surreal transformation, shifting from a wild scene of energetic, leather-clawed bodies to an empty bar with only one female customer. It turns out she lives in a basement apartment beneath the nightclub, and the space materializes as unexpectedly as in a dream. Joseph K. from the trial and Paul Hackett from After Hours are both very active in space. They move vertically and horizontally. Paul goes down to the underground, up to different flats. Joseph K. goes to different flats, to the casino, to the lawyer, but they get more and more entangled in a vicious circle. Paul is literally stuck, literally makes a whole circle and gets back to work. Joseph K., for his part, is stuck metaphorically in court cases and accusations. All the counter figures and counter voices in the trial, the bank employees, Kay's house neighbor Fräulein Börstner, Holt and his nurse Lenny, Titorelli, the priest, the executioners, consistently challenge Kay's one-sided and unsuccessful effort to make the city's various meanings fit his own perspective, shaped by his claim of innocence, legal reasoning, and moral superiority. Similarly, in After Hours, the protagonist's ideas about human relationships are constantly opposed by the people around him. Paul does not understand the relationships between these people. They simply do not fit into his own established notions of legal reasoning and moral superiority. The protagonist in both works is desperate to find support among women, but gets nothing but attempts to subjugate him, having an aggressive but perverse or repellent sexuality. In The Trial, Joseph K. suddenly feels a playfully childish longing, kissing Fräulein Börstner's face and throat, like a thirsty animal lapping greedily at a spring it has found at last. Afterward, he leaves her room content with his actions. Moreover, K., who often uses his sexual influence with women to his advantage, reciprocates Lenny's desires, aiming to gain assistance from her during the trial. After K. kisses her, she encourages him to confess and trusts her legal counsel. Lenny asserts that she has become a replacement for K's mistress Elsa. Lenny acts as a tool for the court, encouraging K not to resist the authorities. She pulls K to the floor in an attempt to make herself his mistress. Unfortunately, Lenny can't and won't help him. Her playful flirting, learned over the years with her boss Holt, only ends up physically enslaving K, with the sinister way in which she bites and kisses K's throat and hair. In After Hours, there are 5 main female characters: Kiki, Mercy, Julie, Gail, and June. Kiki displays sexual aggressiveness and a lust for masochism. Marcy disrupts Paul's reality and challenges his manhood through various cinematic roles. She rejects his advances with a leg wound, similar to Lenny's odd body features in the trial, claws and webbed hands. Lovelorn Julie follows, viewing Paul as her way out of a dead-end job at Terminal Bar. Gail, the owner of a Mr. Softy ice cream truck, initially seems helpful, but after Paul uses her phone, he's chased by an angry mob she alerted. Quiet June offers assistance, but her devised escape becomes an existential prison for Paul. The film contains references to castration and suppressed manhood. In the Terminal Bar bathroom where Julie meets Paul, there's an image of a shark biting a man's erect penis on the wall. A mousetrap near her bed snaps shut when Julie attempts to seduce Paul. Characters can easily turn out not to be who they say they are. When Lenny phones him, she surprisingly links Kay's trip to the cathedral to his trial. "They are hounding you," she says, and Joseph K. concurs. The Italian aesthete, professing to seek purely artistic pleasures, might secretly act as a go-between for the court and its target. In After Hours, Tom turns out to be Marcy's boyfriend, and it's Julie and then the whole population of this district pursuing Paul, mistaking him for the burglar plaguing the neighborhood. The burn high on Marcy's leg, first glimpsed by Paul, later turns out to be a tattoo of a flower-like skull. Then, at the end, June declines his plea to remove the plaster, out of concern the mob might return, and it quickly solidifies, leaving Paul stuck. Joseph K. and Paul are like typical people living in a city today. When they try to understand the complexities of the legal system or ways to get home, it becomes an obsessive, pointless, and sometimes comical process of watching, figuring things out, and traveling through the strange and dreamy scenes of their cities. In the trial, in the house where the court hearing is supposed to take place, the vibrant mix of everyday street life with common people seamlessly merges into the scenes inside. The narrow rooms have open doors, and beds are filled with women, children, and sick individuals. The court's dramatic display of power, which Kay finds both appealing and repulsive, intrudes into his seemingly neat, organized, and respectable world. In Chapter 5, the two guards who had arrested him are being whipped because Joseph K. had complained about them to the examining magistrate. This incident illustrates that the court's display of power infiltrates even the stronghold of bourgeois capitalist security, Joseph's bank. The subway fare has gone up at midnight, Marcy's suicide, or when Paul chances to witness a violent shooting through someone else's window. Such episodes serve the same purpose as the theme of whipping in the trial. Neither of these scenes is ever woven into the overall narrative, but uncover a profound sense of ominous potential within a familiar reality. Both fiction worlds sometimes focus on works of art. In The Trial, it is paintings depicting justice. In After Hours, it is a sculpture that Paul pays attention to, and then another sculpture that he gets stuck in. A large painting in Hood's study from The Trial depicts a man in a judge's robe, sitting on a high golden throne and seeming to be about to leap up at any moment, to make a decisive statement or to pass a sentence. As Vanny explains, this picture dates from the judge's youthful days. The portrait does not resemble him at all anymore. He is actually quite tiny, but has himself painted in this awe-inspiring manner. But anyway, Vanny's deconstruction of its representational illusion is of little concrete help to Joseph K. Similarly, Titorelli's paintings in his attic don't accurately depict the judge's true appearance. They are excessively conceited, don't actually sit on thrones, yet insist on being portrayed similarly to their historical counterparts. In chapter 7, Titorelli shows Joseph in the painting with a female figure with blindfold, scales in her hand, and, strangely, with a pair of wings attached to her heels. As Titorelli claims, the purpose of the painting is to signify justice and the goddess of victory in one. But the artist admits frankly that everything in the painting is pure invention depicted to order. The judge's festive pose panders to his vanity, while the pastel colors will please the lady who will receive the painting. Eventually, Joseph K. comments that it more closely resembles the goddess of the hunt. So the painting avoids the urge to find a clear, consistent meaning, but from Joseph K.'s perspective, it mirrors his deepest, almost paranoid fear of being persecuted, punished, and defeated. Just like in After Hours, the sculpture of the Screaming Man, at first glance so unpalatable to Paul, turns out to be a major clue to later events that Paul didn't use, and there's no way he could have used it, because it's impossible to do so. Paul weakly says the artwork reminds him of the Edvard Munch painting, which he mistakenly calls the Shriek. A random sculpture says more about this part of town than any character can. By the way, After Hours has a direct reference to the trial. An encounter between Paul and Bouncer at Club Berlin echoes a parable from Kafka's The Trial. In Kafka's story, a man seeks entry to the law from a doorkeeper, facing repeated denials over the years. Attempting to bribe the doorkeeper, the man is told, "I'm taking this just so you won't think you've neglected something." In After Hours, Paul offers a quarter to the bouncer, who responds, quote, "I'll take your money, 'cause I don't want you to feel you left anything untried." Unquote.
Got any money?
Yes, I have money. Is that what you want? Money? Why didn't you just ask for that in the first place, man? Here, it's not much, but it's all I've got.
I'll take your money because I don't want you to feel you left anything untried. You keep the quarter.
Both the Kafkaesque doorkeeper and the Club Berlin bouncer offer a deceptive generosity that perpetuates false hope, making it even worse than a straightforward refusal. So, in conclusion, let's summarize. A helpless hero burdened by unclear guilt, an ordinary person navigating through a confusing maze, partly of their own making. In both senses, we get a glimpse into the hero's everyday world. Joseph's world is filled with complex bureaucratic structures that may seem rational at first glance. In After Hours is the clean and modern uptown world of computers. In both situations, the hidden problems beneath these worlds, with wounds, burns, rats, and messy situations, show a breakdown in logic and predictable relationships. Both main characters are in danger of being overwhelmed by this, hinting at an imbalance in their lives, if not in society as a whole, between what's on the surface and what's hidden underneath.